Thanks, Tina. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today I have Hemali with me. Hemali is a head nutritionist with us, and today we thought it's best. She's also a professor, and she teaches nutrition and dietetics as well. And today I thought we'll get her on board to talk about a very important topic, like Tina said, cookware. There are so many people who are confused about what we should cook, and all the time there are misleading ads about, there's expensive cookware, there is reasonable cookware, but we don't know which is best. We're all afraid. Of course, we've heard of aluminium poisoning. When we use too much of aluminium, we've heard how it can lead to Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's over the years. And these things are true because it is found in patients of Alzheimer's and cognitive disorders, the buildup of aluminium over the years. These things just don't happen because you cook your food in that same vessel every single day, day after day. Sometimes the aluminium starts scraping off, it gets into your food and you ingest it. So I think we have Hemali today. People are confused. Should we use cast iron? Should we use clay? A lot of us have tried moving back to mud pots, but that's not really convenient all the time because it breaks, or sometimes the servants break them easily, or they crack on the stove. So what exactly should we be doing in order to maintain, our cookware at home? Hemali, thank you so much for your valuable time. Over to you.
Hi, Luke. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Hemali Malavya, head nutritionist and head training consultant at working with Luke. So today I'm going to speak about the cookwares. The common used cookwares, the materials that are available currently are aluminium, copper. We get steel. There are two types of steel that we get: stainless steel and we get carbon steel. We also get cast iron cookwares. There's something called as non-stick, which is very, very prevalent, and people feel non-stick is safe to use. Plus, there are few cookwares which are made up of plastic, and they market it as they are microwavable. They are safe to use in microwave. They are BPA free, hence they are non-toxic, etc. So these are list of cookwares which are basically available in the market. But if I'm looking at what cookware should I use at, few criteria I would take care of. Basically, cookwares, when we talk about cookwares, there are cookwares which are made up of metals like copper, gold, silver, iron. These metals, they leach out into the food that we use, that we are cooking in. So see, if I'm talking about iron, my body definitely needs iron. I would prefer cooking in iron cookwares. But when it comes to iron, the only issue that we face is that it gets rusted easily. So if you season your iron, that is, apply a layer of oil after washing it thoroughly. So mix little bit of oil, little bit of water, and just rinse it through your ironwares and keep it as is. These are the best cookwares which you can use for cooking your vegetables, cooking your curries. For that matter, most of the Indian household makes rotis, and we prefer iron skillets over other skillets. Like we get non-stick skillets as well, we get aluminium skillets as well. Some amount of iron leaches out into the food, and that will help improve our immunity, because most of the Indians that I have come across are anemic. They have low iron levels. So I would prefer using cast iron. Second cookware that I would prefer is stainless steel. Heavy stainless steel. Why? Because stainless steel is inert material. It is a mixture of copper, iron, nickel, zinc, cobalt. So it's an alloy. Alloy is a mixture of different metals. And when you cook it in steel cookwares, what happens is there is no leaching out of anything from steel to the food. So it is not going to interact with food, and hence safe to be used. Like when we are making something, like you're making a dough or you're serving food, you can definitely use steel cookwares. Glass is something, again, I prefer, like iron, steel, glass is also inert. So it is the best material which you can use for baking. Most of the baking materials that we get are either iron or aluminium. 90% of the baking wares are aluminium. We wouldn't want aluminium because, like Luke said, aluminium leaches out into the food. And aluminium, what happens is it damages our nerves, it damages our brain function, leading to Alzheimer's and various other issues. It also impacts our gut, for that matter. Hence, we would never prefer aluminium. Coming to copper. Now, according to Ayurveda, copper is another material which leaches out into our food. But it is also antibacterial. It helps boosting our iron levels. But excess of copper, like, we get copper in the food that we eat. We get it in the green leafy vegetables. So excess of copper, if you have it in your body, there is something called as copper deposition. It can take place in any area of your body, liver, brain, etc. And excess of copper can have its own set of side effects. So why I am saying this is, like, I had one client specifically. She used to drink water of copper vessels throughout the day, at night, etc. Matlab, she was so obsessed with copper. So we wouldn't want so much or excess of copper in our body. So you can either use it for eating your food. So your plates, your thalis, your bowls can be made up of copper, or you drink 1 glass of water from the copper vessel, overnight soaked water, and that's more than enough when it comes to copper. Though it has side benefits, it also has its set of side effects. Then we get stonewares and we get earthenwares. Coming to earthenwares, the two difficulties or two challenges that we face is, one is that they get broken easily, right? And another thing is, if you don't clean it, we cannot clean earthenwares with detergents. Okay, so if we don't clean it properly, there are fair chances, and if you don't dry it properly, there are fair chances that fungus grows into it, again making it useless for us. So of course, if I want to prepare some curries, I would prefer earthenware. We do use earthen skillets as well for making rotis, for making rotlas, but that is like, once in a while we use it so that we save it and we do not damage it per se. So earthenware, if you say where should I use earthenwares, then I would say use a earthen pot to store your water, or drink your water in earthen glasses. We do get those glasses, or we do get earthen bottles. So we can drink water in that. So these are few materials that I would prefer. Now, materials that we wouldn't prefer. Why? First is non-stick or Teflon wares, or plastic or BPA, aluminium. These are three materials we wouldn't prefer in cooking at all. Why? I'll start with plastic and non-stick. So non-stick generally has a Teflon coating over it. And that Teflon looks, it is similar to something called as plastic. Both of them have similar properties. And they also, like when you cook food in non-stick wares, at a very high temperature, Teflon gets leached out into our food. That is why after some time, if you notice your non-stick ware, the outer covering gets lost, and then that non-stick is of no use. So we should avoid non-stick, we should avoid Teflon, we should avoid plastic. Why? Because when these polymers of plastic enters our body, they they mimic hormones, they mimic like hormones, they modulate with our genes, they play with our DNA, resulting into hormonal imbalance, resulting into gut issues, resulting into, at times, one study, like I'll tell you, I had been working on plastic for 2 years, a proper research on plastic for 2 years in my master's. And something that we realized was that when plastic enters our gut, it mimics something called as testosterone, male hormone. So on a regular basis, if you're using plastic wares, if you're drinking water from plastic bottles, or if you're using it in microwaving, what happens is that plastic will mimic testosterone, resulting into hormonal balance firstly, and it will also lead to, in severe and grave cases, prostate cancer. One of the reasons why the number of cases of cancer has been increasing is plastic. So when you store your when you store your grains in plastic, or when you use plastic for heating, like we put it in microwave because it's safe, this is what happens. Now, when I am talking about plastic, one more thing that I would want to add is, nowadays they say that plastic, this is BPA free plastic. Okay. End of the day, only BPA is not present in plastic, but plastic is there. So polyethylene or the polymers of plastic are going to enter our body, and they are still going to have that effect. Plus, what happens is, plastics, they are joined by something called as plasticizer or a glue. And that plasticizer leaches out like anything on a regular basis, resulting into more havoc. So plastic is a big, big, big no forever. Same thing for Teflon, because it behaves like plastic. Third is aluminium, which we wouldn't prefer at all. So then our question comes is, okay, then what all can we use? So I can also use something called as brass for cooking. Okay, brass is nothing but an alloy or a mixture of copper and zinc. So when I talk about copper and zinc, our body requires copper and zinc in small amount. And this combination per se is very, very good for our gut. But as per Ayurveda, again, we cannot use excess of copper and zinc because it will interfere and it may, disbalance our doshas, which is kapha and vita. So we should avoid it. But eating in brass cookwares is something that I would definitely look at. I mean, this is what our ancestors did. So before, since I'm talking about ancestors, where like my granny's age or her granny's time, during that time, people used silver and goldwares for eating. So silverware, I would say, is one of the biggest material which I would recommend when it comes to storing food, when it comes to drinking water, when it comes to eating, for eating. So much so that we have a common practice that when a new baby is born in our family, we give them silverwares. We give them silver jewelry so that that silver enters their body, improves immunity. Plus, silver also works on our gut. Secondly, silver also has antibacterial properties. That is, it will kill all the bad bacteria in our body. So silver is something that I would definitely look at. So yeah, these are the few glasswares that we would want to look at and incorporating it. Coming to gold, gold is something that we would prefer, but definitely buying gold for plates and all is too expensive. So what we can do is we can wear gold ornaments, pure gold ornaments, and little bit of gold enters our body, improving our immunity. It balances all our doshas as well. So gold is something that, of course, we cannot use it for cooking, but we can definitely wear it to improve our immunity.
Great, Hemali. Thank you so much for that. So if I had to wrap it up, because you've given us a lot of good points. So does this mean that we should have a mix of maybe some cast iron, some copper, some brass, and then keep using them on different days? Well, like you said, rotis can be made on cast iron, plus you can cook different foods. So do you think that we should move between, because even ceramic today, you have pans which are made out of ceramic, and there's the glaze and the non-glaze. So when it comes to stoneware, ceramic is also excellent to cook in, as long as it doesn't have the glaze. So you have to get the non-glazed ceramic pans and vessels. And that's also really, really good for cooking. Coming to aluminium, a lot of people choose to use aluminium. And if they do, then you need to understand that you've got to change your cookware maybe every once or twice, every year. Because what happens is, as the more you use the aluminium, what's going to happen is it's going to start leaching. Right. So you'll notice in all these restaurants and all of that stuff, they use big aluminium vessels for cooking, for mass events, and they use it for years after years because it doesn't really get spoiled. But if you look inside the aluminium vessel, or if you have something at home, you'll notice that there are scratch marks and everything, which means it's already started leaching. So you've got to be very careful of that. If you've already invested a lot of money in non-stick, then if you want to continue using it until it gets spoiled, you need to look at the base of the non-stick pan where you put the food. And even if there's one scratch and you can see like the pan below, which would either be silver or gray, you need to dump it because you've already started leaching the Teflon and all of that stuff. And also what you never use spoons, or steel spoons in a non-stick pan. You always use wooden or you use silicone. Wooden. So I think between brass, copper, cast iron, these are some of the best things that can be done. We have to also remember why mud and clay doesn't really work for us, because it's a gas stove that we use. But when you cook it on a wood fire, like how it was used originally, that pot gets stronger and stronger each time you use it on wood fire. So there's a big difference in gas stove cooking as well as that. So I think these are great points, Hemali. It's very important that we change our cookware because, we always call it slow poisoning. We try to save money by using the same cookware over and over again. But you must know that if it's leaching these chemicals into your food, it's like slow poisoning. You're having it over and over the years. And sometimes this is what leads to an imbalance of hormones or, particles lodged in your brain and all of these things. So it's so important for us to keep looking at our cookware. And then there's expensive cookware where you get titanium and all of these things, which are high quality steel. I mean, if you're willing to spend money on them, absolutely great stuff, because There's nothing else. They're alloys and they're steel, and you can't go wrong with that. Now, of course, a lot of people in India want to use non-stick because you use less oil. And that's why you tend to use non-stick. But you have to understand that even the way you cook doesn't mean you have to always use more oil when you use other utensils. Certain utensils like a stainless steel may require you, but then it's the temperature at which you cook. So if you're in a hurry and you're going to keep the gas on high, your food's going to burn and you're going to end up putting more oil. But if you're doing slow cooking, then it's way, way better. So it's very important for us to understand that cookware is extremely important to even make the food that you cook on that healthy, because we leach the good things like zinc, copper, everything that Hemali said. So we'll send you a list of all the cookware that we suggest. Of course, not the brands. There are a lot of brands in the market. Make sure you do your homework and make sure that what you're having is absolutely safe. You know, cast iron is my first choice. Of course, a lot of people say it's too heavy and all of that stuff, but you get used to it. Like you get used to anything in life, you get used to it. And you have to just season it well and make sure that you keep it clean at all times, and then it shouldn't be a problem for everyone. Thank you, Hemali, so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great evening.